again, I just, like, man, okay, I know I can be annoying, but don't tell me you're open to dialogue and you're open to having these conversations and then block me. Because that's such a move, because nobody on his side knows that I was blocked by him. They just know that I went radio silent. So the appearance is I didn't have any response, but what really happened is he blocked me, so I couldn't respond, which is such a move, man. And I just okay. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good to move on. One day every knee will bow before the one sitting on the restored throne of David, the royal Jewish monarchy. What? The royal Jewish monarchy? David did not sit on the throne of the kingdom of Judah or Judea. He sat on the throne of the kingdom of Israel, a united kingdom. And I thought that this was just a really weird thing to say, the royal Jewish monarchy. So I said, you misspelled Judean, because of course, David is from the tribe of Judah, and so he would be a Judean. And so I will point out here, because later Joel says I was being disrespectful or something like that, but his response is Judah. Okay, David's kingdom was more than Judah. It was a united kingdom called Israel. I'm surprised I have to tell you this. So who was snarky first? Was it me or was it Joel? Here's the receipts. Words often develop over time, including in the Bible. Although many tribes were represented there, those from the southern kingdom of Judah came to be called Jews in the Bible and by Jesus. Well, again, we've pointed out the New Testament uses the word Judaios, which would be Judean. The term came to be used for all 12 tribes of Israel, Jews. Okay, and let's grant that. I do think there is maybe more conversation. Of course, there's scholarly works. I have pointed out the book by Philip Eisler on the book of Romans dealing with this. And but let's just grant him this for now. The term came to be used for all 12 tribes of Israel, Jews. And I'm saying, yeah, this is a much better explanation than your original post, which was unfortunately anachronistic. So he's pointing out that terms change over time, which is the anachronistic problem. You begin to read back into a first century context a word that now has a 21st century meaning to it. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to be anachronistic. David was Judean. His kingdom was Israel. Your Jewish monarchy idea would be totally foreign to David, who came long before what he's pointing out. This word developed over time. And so, yes, but to David, the idea would have been completely foreign. Foreign to David and not to Jesus, Joel says. I would disagree. It's a meaningful discussion on this topic. There is meaningful discussion on this topic, but yes, most of the way modern people use the word Jew, Jewish, or Judaism would have been foreign to Jesus as well. Judean is more biblical and less anachronistic, as it still preserves the religious and cultural connotation. I bring this up because one of the criticisms of translating Judaios or Judaion, Judean, or Judeans, is that it's too geographically centered and you lose the religious cultural context in favor of the geography. But that's not really how words work. We'll get to that, because if I say my friend is from India, I'm pointing to a geographical location that has a history, culture, and even a predominant religion that you would probably factor into your understanding of what it means for my friend to be Indian. So, but I bring this up because I know that that's a problem. The word Judean still preserves the religious and cultural connotation. He says, those from the tribe of Judah were Jews, not Judeans. And Joel's a Bible teacher, I think. No, No, friend. No, they are Judeans. You can also call them Jews as well if you would like. But they're from the southern kingdom of Judah. We just talked about they went into exile in Babylon. They came back, rebuilt the temple. And after that, the term Judean becomes synonymous with kind of a more broad take on who the Israelite people are. And I understand that. And so I feel like he just completely, so I'm quoting here something I've already covered, but we'll cover it. The words Jew, Jewish, and even Judaism now carry meanings indelibly fashioned by events after the first century. Indeed, it's arguable that the translation of Judean as Jews is not only intellectually indefensible, but also morally questionable. To honor the memory of these first century people, it is necessary to call them by a name that accords with their own sense of identity. Jews does not suit this purpose. Judeans is the only apt rendering of the English for us to preserve that. And again, we're being unfair to the first century Judean religious leaders who rejected Jesus by saying Jesus would have been one of them. He's clearly not. So there's something else that we need to talk about. Just saying Jesus was a Jew and or even that they were Jews and not Judeans is just mind-boggling to me. You're losing, you're dishonoring the people of that time period, of that location, who had that culture, who practiced religious traditions. You're going to lose that by way of anachronism. Along these lines, Judean is a slippery term to start with. C.K. Hansen, Douglas Auckman, 5 possible meanings. Okay, you can see this, but I did a whole video on this. So I'm quoting, and I gave this Palestine in the so this whole thing is a quote, and I didn't necessarily quote the person, but I did reference the article that quotes this and does more, and you guys can check that out if you want to. Joel seems to miss that. He seems to think that that there's no quotations. And again, here's some of the cheekiness. Eye roll. Nehemiah, again, post-Babylonian Nehemiah, right? So the southern kingdom of Judah goes into exile in Babylon. Nehemiah records that the southern kingdom of Judah comes back, rebuilds the temple, all this, right? And he also I don't know where he's getting this. Nehemiah 1:16, actually 1:6 doesn't actually say this. Or maybe I missed it. We can go there. We can get there when we get there. Nehemiah 1:16 uses the term Jews. I'm going from Greek to Hebrew now. Judim. I probably butchered that collectively for all the returning exiles. Again, all the returning exiles? You mean the exiles from the tribe of Judah? From the kingdom of Judea? Yes, of course. It uses that to refer to the people who they are. Sorry, I'm getting triggered. Forgive me. I'll chill out. Which is called all Israel. Now, I do see on behalf of the sons of Israel, you're asserting, confessing the sons of Israel. Yeah. So he's referring to his heritage. Your ear now, be attentive to your eyes to hear the prayers of your servant, which I am praying before you day and night on behalf of the sons of Israel, your servant, confessing the sins of the sons of Israel, which have sinned against you. I, my father's house, have sinned. We've acted correct. So maybe he's saying that the southern kingdom of Judah, which is in exile in Babylon now, Nehemiah is referring to, well, no, because this is in the context of, Hanani comes back from geographically the land of Judah. Yeah, because some of the men of Judah came and asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped and had survived captivity and about Jerusalem. So it's all sort of geographically located there. Yeah, and so he reflects in verse 5, I said, I beseech you, O Lord God of heaven, great and awesome God, who preserves the covenant and loving kindness of those who love him. He's referring back to a united kingdom, possibly, that would be called Israel. So this is thin by Joel, but whatever. He's not acknowledging that, yes, the post-Babylonian exiles were Judeans. They were from the southern kingdom of Judah. Hansen and Alkman's work does nothing to negate the evolution of Jew as a unifying ethnic religion. Again, evolution of Jew. Again, the term evolves, which is why it becomes anachronistic. And then he quotes Grok. And so this was the one, the critique of Jew as post-first century construction challenged by, no, it's not James. It's Amy Jill, the misunderstood Jew. If you look her up, you can see that she has an ideological bent. The Church and the Scandal of the Jewish Jesus directly counters the ethical concerns about mistranslation. Living argues that Jew preserves the continuity of cultural practices such as Jew rather than Judean preserves the continuity of cultural practices such as Sabbath, dietary, blah, 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 which Judean risks diluting by tying identity too tightly to a specific religion. Sorry. Hang in there with me. Too tight, region, and I even butchered it at the end there. Yes, and I agree that this is one of the critiques of translating Jew as Judean, but again, as I've already pointed out, it doesn't eliminate history, culture, and even religion. If I say my friend is from India, you can understand that I'm not saying he's simply from a geography divorced from any religious influence that geography might have. Where Paul, a Benjaminite, identifies as a Jew. Well, again, the tribe of Benjamin was in the southern kingdom of Judea. I don't know why people don't see this. Even Jacob Federecci, who's a Jewish man, said that wasn't the case. It is the case. The tribe of Benjamin is in that. So there's 10 northern tribes. There's 2 southern. Unless I did the math wrong, that's 12. Sorry, I'm getting triggered. And I sound like a mean person, and I'm not trying to be mean. While Judean may suit specific historical context, dismissing Jew as indefensible ignores the deep roots in Israelite self-understanding. I would disagree. They would not have used this term the way modern people are using it, the way Joel is using it, the way Dan is using it, the way apostate prophet is using it. And so I say, yeah, no one is arguing that the term doesn't develop over time. That's precisely why you are in danger, Joel, of being anachronistic. And I quote Philip Eisler. I make sure he understands, to honor the memory of these first century people, it's necessary to call them by a name that accords with their own sense of identity. Philip Eisler. Essler? Paul called himself a Jew. Was he being anachronistic? No. And this is what people do. Like, did Paul call himself a Jew? Paul called himself a Hebrew. Again, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And he referred to his former life in Judaism. And he's from the tribe of Benjamin, so he would have been called a Judean. And I take pictures of the Bible for these people. Although I myself, this is Philippians 3:4. Although I might have some confidence in the flesh, if anyone else has a mind to put confidence in the flesh, I far more, circumcised on the 8th day, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrew, as to the law, a Pharisee. Right there, he could have called himself a Jew, but he doesn't. As to the law, a Jew. As to the law, a Judean. No, he says a Pharisee. I was a Pharisee. I was a member of a sect of Judaism. So God, I'm trying to help these guys out. And then I quote Galatians 1, where Paul refers to his former life in Judaism. So Paul called himself, so he just was like, hey, Paul calls himself a Jew. Is he being anachronistic? Where do you cite? I'm a Jew from Tarsus in Sicilia, a citizen of no obscure city, Acts 21. So you quote Bible passages. Great. I'm a Jew born in Tarsus, but brought up in that city, educated under the feet of Gamaliel. Okay. So what is Joel showing us right here? And I said, okay, I am a Jew from Tarsus. Is he talking about geography? I have already demonstrated that Judaios is better translated Judean. Notice the geographical context of both of these passages. Despite Paul writing most of the New Testament, these are the only two times he directly refers to himself as Judaios. Again, when he says my former life in Judaism, that is the word Judaiosmos. So this is the only two times that Paul refers to himself as a Judean, and it is in the context of geography. He's pointing about the city and the place where he is from and calls himself a Jew or a Judean, I would say, according to the context and every other time in the New Testament, the word Judean is better translated. Judaios is better translated Judean. Look at all of the passages that people cite. The woman at the well, where Jesus says salvation is from the Jews. What is the context of that conversation between the woman at the well? I pointed this out again, previous podcast. She says, where do I worship? I'm a Samaritan, and I'm told we need to worship over here on this mountain. But you, Judeans, worship in Jerusalem over here. The context is geography. Where is God? Which location? And Jesus says, salvation is from the Judeans. Go to Jerusalem. Go to the temple. And what will you find there? Everything is pointing towards me. He saves her the trip and basically just says, I'm the one. He just points her directly to himself right there in that moment. And I said to Joel, in case you're on your way there, the tribe of Benjamin that Paul belonged to was historically the southern kingdom of Judea. Joel says, you began by semi-mocking my position. Did I begin? Or did you begin by remember? He goes, Judah. And then he says, I roll. So this is what they do. Anybody that's ideologically committed accuses you of doing the thing that they did. You began by mocking my position, though it is simply mainstream academic consensus. So okay, look, there's two logical fallacies here. Appeal to authority and sort of, I guess, a straw man. Now you're arguing that every translation I looked at is wrong. Yes, that is my argument. I'm arguing that Judean is a better translation. And yes, every English translation of the Bible translates predominantly Jew. In some places, they do use the word Judean. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why that is so dominant in the English translations of the Bible. That's a good question to ask. You're arguing that Paul was saying that you are arguing that Paul was saying that he is a Judean born in Turkey, which makes zero sense. Again, I'm simply I get this now. A Judean of the tribe of Benjamin. Yes, of the southern kingdom of Judah, but yes, born elsewhere, which makes zero sense. Again, I'm simply articulating what is fairly common sense within the academia, and you called it intellectually indefensible. So again, it's not a common consensus within academia. There's lots of academic debate on whether or not Judean might be a better translation, as I referenced. I've demonstrated otherwise. No, you haven't. Would gently suggest toning down the polemics when you're not really sure of your subject matter. Okay. This is a quote from Dr. Philip Eisler, illustrating that the mainstream academic consensus on the subject is developing. Resist the temptation to go ad hominem here. It's fine to start with the English translations, but don't let that define your term for you. Research the original language and the original author's context. Shalom. Pointing out your over-the-top polemics is not ad hominem. Over-the-top polemics, okay? It's simple, gentle correction that I hope you hear. It's not over the top to go into the original language, the original context of the biblical authors, or cite current scholarship. Why is this viewed as being over the top? Why you think this is over the top probably needs to be examined. Yes, I'm open to correction when it's needed. Just ask my wife, who I'm probably frustrating right now. Hey, thank you guys for being, those that are having to take off. I would take everything that Amy Jill Levine says with a large grain of salt. Good context there, Harry Stark. Thank you. Reference to something that is widely known and understood, intellectually indefensible. If you cannot see that is over the top, then I cannot help you. A simple, yeah, that was really dumb, over the top comment would suffice. I do it all the time. And I said again, once you're attributing to me is a quote from Dr. Philip Eisler, a New Testament scholar. Okay, and this would be my this would be my ask. This is what I would ask Joel. You should have stayed with your argument to find out if it withstands scrutiny. Your appeal to authority, just saying it's common academia, everybody accepts this, and your ad hominem approach is not working. Now, of course, I can no longer engage with Joel because he has blocked me. And maybe I just annoyed him, whatever. Again, this point about Nehemiah, we discussed that. I'm a Christian. I stand with Israel to stand with humanity and all of our Creator. I stand with the global Jewish community against... What is this? He talked about the global Jewish kingdom earlier. Dynasty? What did he even say? It's so bizarre. Royal Jewish monarchy, and now he says global Jewish community. Doesn't that just, to me, that just, And against every Christian who uses the Bible to support hatred and racism. Yeah, I would agree with that. We need to be against. Now, are they Christians? I don't really know.